Ace here, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Net, the series whereby I have real conversations with real people from the sports industry. Be sure to do 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. And if this is your first time watching an episode, be sure to check out the ones that I've had in the past with some special guests. Today, I am here with the beautiful Jatila Blake. Jatila, welcome to Behind the Net.
I am so happy to be here. I am so happy to be here with you, of course.
The feeling is mutual. For those who don't know who you are or what you do, can you just explain how are you involved in the sports industry? What's your background?
Well, where do I begin? So guys, I am a sprinter, national level sprinter, and although I haven't competed in some time, I've been a junior, started off in the sport probably when I was about 10 years old. Started running, sort of just with family, thought, oh, this could be something. Decided to take up netball, which was completely different. And then it wasn't until I got to school, so I must have been in about year 8, my English teacher and my PE teachers then, they sort of said to me, you've got some real talent behind you, you're fast, let's get you signed up to the local club.
So who was that local club for you? What area was that?
That was back in Hertfordshire, where I was living at the time. I lived in Hemel Hempstead, and the club was Decorum and Train. Still get to go there sometimes now when I'm at home.
Yeah. So I know you were saying that. I think what a lot of people resonate with is that whole late primary school years, early secondary school years, where you have an interest in sport, but you don't really know which one you really want to take seriously.
Yeah, it's so true.
How was it for you that you ended up choosing athletics? Because you said you was doing netball, so what pushed you into athletics?
I think it was, I started off at the club and I was just doing fun sessions. They've always got a fun sort of coach at that point. And then I started to win races and I started to invest more time into it because I'd go to the track and I'd train after school. I'd always walk down, stop off at McDonald's, go get some chips before training. The typical things that you can do when you're sort of a young child, you can do any sport. And I think I just grew out of the netball and the basketball because my soul was literally telling me you are made for athletics.
I don't know much about athletics. I just kind of competed for fun at school. You know, you did the youth games and stuff like that. Did you ever have the opportunity to take part in any of those competitions? We
did quite a few. So when we had the club, we had local, I can't actually remember what they're called now, but we had sort of youth games and things, like sports halls and things like that at Lee Valley. Lee Valley is known to sort of train some of the best athletes that we have in this country. Sort of even athletes who come from international, they always come to Lee Valley. Lee Valley is sort of the place where champions are made in the UK. So we always did sort of sports halls, development programs there, which were always really good for you to get sort of exposure to other coaches as well who were looking to sort of help you progress even more. Even different events. So I actually met a long jump coach there.
Oh, nice.
Who taught me everything I know about long jump. So yeah, it was just very, very educational because they had so much there. The facility is just incredible. Yeah. And it always will be because there's so many good athletes behind it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, what's your event?
Well, I'd say my event was sort of before, I would say up until sort of 15, 16 maybe, I was predominantly 60 metres, 100 metres, 200 metres was a push. Like, for some, I should really have been doing more 200 metres, but for me 200 metres was a push. Like,
why though? Because I know
I was just lazy and I can say it with my whole chest. I was just lazy and I hated it. 200 was far. And I think...
Is it that bend?
It's just everything about it I struggled with. Didn't do enough of it in training, so I was solely sort of 60 and 100 metres. Obviously, if I could do anything different now, you'd sort of want to prep yourself more or do those longer sessions, which I always skipped out on because apparently they weren't important to me.
I mean, with that, you say, 60, 100 was what you loved, and maybe you could have done the 200. How much of an influence is your coaches in that decision of what length they think you're best suited to? How does that happen?
So when I was a lot younger, so my first coach, he always said to me from day dot, you will be a 400 runner, or
Okay.
you will step up distances to 400. You just need to get your head around it.
Right.
For me, it was never an option. I look at him and I'm like, there's no way you're getting me around the whole track. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I think just as time went on, like, I didn't progress as well from being a senior into a junior.
Right.
Which we'll go into as to other reasons sort of why. And then I sort of took on the more longer distance stuff when I got to a new coach.
Okay.
That's when I moved from decorum and training to my new coach.
So how did you end up competing at national level? Tell us about that.
So yeah, well, I had a great start in the sort of the very, very early beginning of my sort of athletic career. I think I was training down at my first club for about, I want to say it must have been about a few months, and actually managed to run a quick enough time to qualify me for the English Schools Championships.
Right.
The English Schools Championships is sort of every county in the UK come together in one place and you basically battle it out. And it's just like, it was my first big sort of championships as a sort of a junior. I'd never done anything like that.
Yeah, how old were you at this stage?
I was about 15.
Okay, so yeah, it's quite young.
I was under 15 category, yeah. So yeah, probably 15, 14. So it was, it was fun for me because I didn't really know much about the sport.
Right.
I went in it's just like a normal race compared to my little sort of Southern Leads or EYLs, what they used to call them. And I just went out and I ran, and I had no pressure, there was no blocks, there was nothing that I thought about, just everything my coach had told me, I just put on the line there and ended up finishing third, and it was real close, came away as a
Do you feel like because you had that attitude of, I'm just going to run, do you feel like that it actually played in your favour? Because I guess the pressure around that at such a young age, I mean, you must have teammates and stuff. How do they cope with getting ready or prepping for when those big competitions come around?
I don't think you're ever ready. I think when you're a junior and you're just starting out and you perform well as a junior, you're always going to carry something on you, even though you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because to me, I know so many people who have started off young, and there's so much pressure on them to step out on the big stage. Just because they're transitioned from junior, they were a great junior, doesn't mean that they're going to be as successful as a senior. So the pressure on athletes, especially like us young athletes, to perform well as a senior, is tough. Like, you can't prepare yourself for the different changes, and that's speaking on behalf of athletes who are out there now repping sort of GB, international, from a junior. It's a long career.
Yeah.
It's a long career. You can't put too much pressure.
Do you
know what I mean? So if you're looking for wealth and you want to start running, you need to find something else as well.
Wow.
Like,
And that's crazy, because when you think of when we see all these major competitions on TV, like the Olympics and stuff like that, you're thinking, well, these are professional athletes, you know, and they probably, like you said, train their whole life from juniors, seniors, all of that stuff to get to this point now where they're representing their country on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And coming from you as somebody who's from the industry, you're saying, well, they probably have to do some other things on the side to make ends meet.
100%. I'm telling you, I saw a GB long jumper. It was on Twitter during lockdown, and it was just incredible to watch. He had done like a before lockdown picture of himself in a final. I can't remember what competition the photo was from, but him in full swing, mid jump, repping UK, doing his thing. And then the next picture was him in a lift doing a selfie with a parcel, because he's now delivering parcels.
Oh my god.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So
that transition is crazy.
Exactly.
So now he's gone from people, and I thought that's probably
I think it was Bramble. Yeah, it was Bramble. So he's a long jumper, and it was mad.
So that's what I'm saying. The perception that people get when you make it to the big stage is that you're set. But really and truly, what he's showing you is after that's all finished, I have to go back to maybe a 9 to 5 or whatever, just to make ends meet until I get to compete again.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're not getting the sort of funding, now funding is just another topic which is just going to go back and forth, I think, in this sport, because it's just, it is wild. Like, you can earn money, like, don't get me wrong, you can earn money from the sport, but I mean, it's not like sort of continuous income.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
Like, the money that you'll get from that, put away, save it, put it away, because it ain't going to be enough to keep you going for the rest of your life.
Right.
Like, put it away. Yeah, it's good money that you've got here. Save up, put it towards something, give it to parents. Like if you're a young junior athlete, you don't think about that. If you're getting money for any event, like even club events, they do little, if you win here, you get a little £50 here, a little £50 here.
Yeah.
As soon as you step onto them big stages, you really have to start thinking about it.
So what I love about having conversations like this is that for those maybe even interested in the sport or maybe just want to know more about another sport, I feel like conversations like this are amazing to have, or important to have, should I say, because it highlights both the good, the bad and the indifferent about the sport. You know, me coming from like my football background and stuff, there's issues within that sport, but for me it's incredible to hear that even when you make it to the big stage, behind closed doors or behind the net as we call it, there's still all of this going on where these athletes are out here still trying to make ends meet to compete in something that they love doing, you know, that they're talented at doing.
It just goes to show that when you're doing this sport, like I've loved it from sort of day dot, ever since I got introduced to it, I've loved it, and we do it because we love it. Like I don't think I can think of many people that will be standing on any start line, whether you're on a big stage, little stage, looking at the end of that line thinking, oh, there could be money in this for me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas we look at the end of that start line and all we're thinking about is how we're going to execute our race. How am I going to do for myself? What am I going to take away from it? Is there a PB? What sort of shape am I in? Money is never even, not that I've been in that position to even think about it, but if I was, I just still can't imagine me thinking, there's a couple bags at the end of this for me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No, what do you think was the reason that prevented you from going to the next step?
Yeah, of course. So I think for me personally, once I'd done sort of like Olympic trials and sort of European trials, you know what? They could, with athletics, they sort of combine it with your sort of British Championships as well.
Okay.
So you've got people that are there competing to get times, to get selections, to go to the Olympics. And then you've got other people sort of just competing for that British title. It's all sort of, they sort of double them over, those sort of events. European indoors, exactly the same. But you walk around and you think, wow, like this could be a chance for any single one of us to take this title.
I mean, I think at that level, have you, at those levels when you were doing those competitions, have you ever competed against somebody who's now on the big stage? Like any names?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I actually remember it very vividly back, I want to say it must have been like 2013, maybe 14. First time European indoor trials, and it was me with Dina Asher-Smith.
Right.
Yeah, so we go like sort of way back to sort of junior level. Yeah. And it's always such a lovely story watching her blossom in what she's doing now. And I remember we were so happy over having bibs with our actual surnames on it.
We made it!
Exactly, like we made it. But I remember it vividly, having our surnames on our bibs, thinking, wow, that's it, we're out here. Like everyone look at us. Like, and now it's the same sort of, been in the same sort of semi-finals and stuff as like Asher Phillip, who's been British champion too, and you've also got the likes of Christina Hiragu, who is sort of a queen of the sport, has been around for a very, very long time and doing sort of incredible things. And there's so many other athletes that I could sort of reel off that I've been very grateful to even just be on the same start line with, and people now who are still up and coming. Like for me, I've realised it now. I think a lot of people feel that if you don't make it as a junior, your time is done. Right. This is not right. Last year there were so many people who are PBing, making finals in their 30s. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So even for me, like I've got a head on. Like, I still feel I could run really, really well. Right. So I'm not putting anything past me. I still feel like if I've got the head for it, and I'm still in the situation I am and constantly growing in what I'm doing at the moment, it's possible. It's possible for anyone.
That's so true.
It's possible for anyone.
I hope those who are listening and watching, that is amazing advice there. Yeah. I mean, I know, but I think those listening, those watching won't know that something very tragic happened in your personal life. Yeah. That a lot of people at any age would have struggled to deal with. Yeah. Do you mind just sharing that with those listening?
So in 2015, I was sort of like 20 years old. So I was a little kid, pretty much in my third year at uni, And it's actually crazy because I lost my mum through suicide, and I was actually at the athletics track when I found out. So that's how much this sport means to me. Like, I've been there through sort of thick and thin. It's seen me at my best and it's seen me at my worst.
Yeah.
Now, I was in my 3rd year looking to graduate, graduated and all of that, which is a blessing because this all happened before.
Yeah, props to you for that.
Yeah,
amazing.
But lost mum, and when it's to something like suicide, you've got so many questions.
Right.
You blame every single thing that you could possibly think of, including yourself.
Right.
And it took me a long time to sort of realise that I need to stop blaming all these factors. I decided that I was going to stop running. I wanted to go into a different path. I was in my 3rd year of uni. I was sort of drinking 24/7, like just being stupid, trying to live that uni lifestyle that I thought I was gonna, like, I thought I'd already, like, not lost, but that I'd dedicated to sport, because I went to uni to be closer to my athletics track.
Okay.
So I just thought, no, this is for me, and I did. I went off the rails for quite a while, and then it took me a while to sort of get back on my feet. I think I sort of accepted it more when I decided to go travelling and things like that.
Yeah. Do you think that helped?
It you know what, it helped. Like, I think it also helped me going into working at the school. Okay. So people don't know, me and Lani also worked together.
We worked together.
Sports teachers through and through.
That's why I met you. I met you as a sports coach at school. Yeah.
And like, even you, like, you saw me at my best and you saw me at my worst. Yeah. And certain days and holidays were difficult. But yeah, I did go off the rails, and I do feel like if I managed, obviously these things happen, you can't say this wasn't going to happen, but I do reckon I could have sort of stayed on path and maybe done something or achieved something a little bit further than more than what I wanted to at that stage. But
I think the point you made just before we touched upon this sensitive subject was even people now in their 30s are hitting their PB. Yeah. You are 26, you know, you still got all that time ahead of you that if you want to now go and hit that PB, you still can. Yeah. And I think what is so amazing about your story, and anyone who's ever crossed your path will know, is that you've been through something so tragic, which I say all the time is, no one will ever know completely how that feels unless you've experienced it yourself. But it's the way you've bounced back. Now, I think everyone would understand the fact that you went off the rails a bit, you know, and maybe, you know, you just thought, well, why am I dedicating all my time to this sport when, you know, at my lowest point in my life, this happened and I was there dedicating myself to sport. Well, I don't want to do that anymore. But you've come full circle, and now you're back training. You even now work for a running company. Yeah.
They can't get rid of you that easily.
I just think that is such a beautiful story to share. Whoever's listening, watching, that in itself that's the comeback. You know. Do you think the sport helped you through some of like that tough period in your life?
Yeah. You know what? Soon after it happened, it must have been probably about 3 weeks or so. I woke up one day, I was at home, and I was like, I need to go to the track. Wow. I need to go to the track. Yeah. Called up my coach, who's been incredible through and through. He used to pick me up when I couldn't drive and take me to Windsor. Now, Hemel to Windsor is a very long way. Right. And we're talking he would do this sort of 3-4 times a week. Wow. So I called him up and I was like, look, I'm ready to get back running. I also then sort of messaged who is now like my manager and CEO of Run Through, and I said to him, look, I'm ready to get back into sort of working part-time. Yeah. And I just had a complete flip. But the help with the sport and being around a community of runners, it helped massively because I could not have imagined what I'd have been doing now if I didn't have the likes of my working background and the athletics as well. It definitely helped.
We all know that we face challenges in our day-to-day life, but what would you say are some of the challenges that you faced within the sport?
You know what, I think it's just the accessibility to sort of what I chose to do in my life and what was required of me with athletics. Okay. For example, I've never been one of them people that have had a 9-to-5 job that can wake up, go to work, finish at 5, head straight to the track, do whatever. I've never had that, and for me, I like that. Like I like that way that my routine is set. I've sort of had jobs where I've worked in pubs, and then was obviously recently when I was 2016 to 18, I was working at school, sports teacher.
Yeah.
Incredible, and nothing would ever change me from take back from what I've done from that job. It taught me so much, but I wanted to do it. So if I'm working, for example, in Wandsworth, but yet my training is in Twickenham. No, my training is in Windsor. Yeah. And I live in Twickenham. So I'm travelling from Twickenham at 6:30 in the morning to get to Wandsworth. If you don't know these places, they're far. To get to Wandsworth. And then when I finish, drive all the way back to Windsor, which is way past, and then drive back to Twickenham. Yeah. To do that. I still did it. Like, I'd finish after school clubs and stuff, and I'd go to the track, and even at some points I'd be driving that school bus. Yeah. So having to drive the bus to training, it was testing, and it just got to the point I was just drained. Right. And like tiring, and I wasn't being able to get the best out of my sessions because of that. Like, I had a full day, full day. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Yeah. And then with my sort of current job, I've got so much more flexibility, and it's incredible because the people that are around me all come from sporting backgrounds and very supportive of each other. Have also been in the sports for long periods of time. And we're able to have that flexibility to, if I wanted to pop out for a run on my lunch, they encourage that. It's like, clear your head, like, you've got to look after yourself as well.
You're working for an amazing company called Run Through. Yeah. For those who don't know much about the company or maybe have heard of it, could you explain more about how it started? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, of course. So it started in 2013. Right. By two guys who are CEOs, also my managers. I love them so much.
Give them a shout out.
Matt Wood and Ben Green. Love you so much. If you're listening to this, so they started this back in 2013. Now before that, they were both Loughborough students, so they were also surrounded by incredible sort of facilities. They both weren't working in that. I think Ben was actually in accounting or something. Oh wow, like that, something completely different.
Did they have sporting backgrounds themselves?
Yeah, they had sporting backgrounds, both long distance runners, middle distance runners, competed for GB and medals and all of that.
Oh, amazing.
So they've had this great initiative to start this because in their eyes there probably wasn't enough sporting events sort of in the UK at all. And it started, we've just actually had our 8th birthday, so made it. So we host sort of running events around the UK, up and down the UK. We've got events in Manchester, the Northwest, South. We've had one in Liverpool. We've got one coming up in May in Wales, Alton Towers. The list goes on.
Is this adults or is it kids as well?
Kids can join in if they want. Obviously, we've got minimum ages for 5k and 10k because obviously the sort of pressure on them to do the distances. Yeah. We do have like younger kids races in London, like 1 mile. Yeah. Gives them a chance to sort of dress up.
So how can people get involved in stuff like this? Where do they go?
So if you want to get involved, it's so easy. We've got such a great, what I've always loved about Run Through is the community. Right. The community base of it. We've got people of all different shapes, sizes, because there's no stopping point for us. Nice. So you can sign up sort of online. You can even drop us an email, we can help you.
Amazing. What's the website?
Runthrough.co.uk.
So runthrough.co.uk. Yeah. If you're interested in running, or even if you just want to take on the challenge of running. Yeah. This is the company to go to.
We always push forward. So even if you're thinking about it, and it's just been sort of in the back of your mind as like a distant sort of thought that you've got, just get in touch with us. Yeah. Like, I always have conversations with people sort of on social media or even on email who have just done their first races and they're so grateful. Yeah. And I can highly vouch that you will have like an incredible sort of running experience.
So what's your role within the company? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am brand manager and event manager because we have a kit clothing brand as well.
That you are modelling.
Yeah, I'm modelling it actually.
Don't watch it on YouTube, she is modelling it very nicely today. Yep.
So brand manager for the clothing company and also sort of working the communications and event village manager for sort of on the day roles. So that involves everything from setting up the event, organising staff, making sure that staff are in the right places, the event runs smoothly, runners are having sort of the most incredible time. Like for me, if there was a runner to come up and sort of have a problem or a query or a complaint, that for me is what comes first in any instant. That is my role right there.
Okay.
Is to make sure.
So one of the things I'm sure people will be interested in knowing is about injuries. We see it all the time, you know, pro athletes running and they pull up or they can't even make it to the track because they've had an injury in warm up. I mean, I can imagine that being one of the most heartbreaking things is that you've trained all season long, you get to that major event and then that's it, injury, and then you're out. I mean, what's one of the common injuries in the sport and have you experienced that yourself?
Yeah, well, there's so many injuries out there and it always depends probably on what you do, like what you do. Personally, for sort of athletics, for me, sprinters, common hamstring pulls, hamstring strains. Every single time pulling up with hamstrings, it used to catch me. But it's one of those things where it happens to you, but you can overcome it, you can rehab it, but you need to get to the bottom as to why that's happened.
Yeah.
So for me, it took me ages. From college, I went to a very, very good college called Oakland's, which really specialised in, or still specialises, they're doing big things at the moment, sort of in athletes and things like that. And that's when I got introduced to the gym.
Right.
So I was lifting weights and I could lift pretty heavy. Okay. I'm telling you, boys, come at me. I will outlift you. Try me. Maybe not so much at the moment. Yeah, I was lifting heavy, doing all this stuff with weights, but I couldn't seem to transition it to the track. So I had all this power, all this stuff, and I just couldn't transfer it to the track. And I'd constantly be pulling hamstrings, and also lots of shin splints as well, which I think come from a lot of long jump and being toey, which all these different things.
Shin splints is definitely, even as a footballer, it's one of the most irritating ones. You don't know what to do to get rid of it.
Yeah, like I'm nursing shin splints at the moment because I'm doing a lot more longer distance stuff. So it's just a case of nursing it right, but also like doing the work to to make it stronger. Yeah. So it doesn't happen again. But yeah, they're just some of the very many common ones, and you probably get so many other different ones in different sports.
I mean, at club level, with your experience, have you had, I guess you mentioned that funding sometimes is a big issue within the sport, so when these injuries do pop up, do clubs struggle with having the right person who specialises in these injuries to really help their athletes recover? If
you're very fortunate to have sort of your own physio at your club, then that's great. You will see a lot of times at competitions, clubs will have their own physio. So before a race, you'll get a quick rub down by your physio or by the club massage, and then after the race, you'll have one. But if you actually nursing a real injury, sometimes you have to put money in behind that. Like the club can't help you with that. Like that's your injury. The club physio can only do so much, you know. Unless obviously you're willing to sort of pay them and they know what they're talking about and they can diagnose you and everything like that. But yeah, if it can be quite big, like some injuries require surgery. Right. You know, you could be out for sort of months and months and months. You could not be running for like a couple of seasons. Yeah. You know, and you think a couple of seasons, that's 2 summers, that's 2 winters, that's 2 indoor seasons, that's 2 outdoor seasons. Yeah. Like, it's a long time. And I can imagine, I mean, with you said you've experienced injury yourself, like once you got that green light to come back, what is then the challenge? What's the challenge then that you face? Because now, okay, physically you've been told you're okay to go back, but you know you're not at the same level you was before you was injured. So how you personally, how did you start that process of getting back to your best? Yeah, see, for me it's always been difficult and I'm still trying to work on it now. Like if I'm sort of at training and things like that, focusing on yourself is the most important thing. Like if you're doing reps with other people and you know full well that you're pipping them to 10 metres before your injury, and then they're going past you at 10 metres, 20 metres, and you're thinking, right, how has this happened? Yeah. I was only injured for say like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But it's like a conversation you have to have with yourself. Like you will build back strength. Like you will build back strength. So for me, I normally take myself away from my training group. Okay. Still be around them and do sort of warm-ups with them. But if I know that I can still, if I'm running well, but I'm just not quite there yet, take myself away. Like take myself away, focus on what I'm doing to get myself back ready. And then when me and my coach feel like, you know what, jump in on that one.
Right.
See how you get on.
Yeah.
Just slowly integrate it.
I think what advice would you give to anyone listening, watching, who's maybe a young person, maybe early teens, who's really interested in athletics and wants to take it seriously, or even somebody like you said who maybe has had a long-term injury and now trying to get to their PB, you know, the comeback. What would be your advice?
Just go find someone, go down to that track, say it with your chest, I want to try this sport, I want to try this, how do I get involved? Or even speak to someone that you've seen, or a friend or a family member. Like, people can help. If you want something, you have to go and get it, you have to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jatila, it's been absolutely amazing having this conversation with you. I think you're an absolutely phenomenal human being. Just some of the stuff you've faced personally, and how the sport that you questioned, you still returned to, and you're now giving back to the sport, which I think speaks volumes about your character. So thank you so much.
It's been the best!
For joining me on Behind the Net. Before you go, what I'm doing this series is I'm asking every guest I have this question. Now, if you had the choice,
okay,
what would you choose? Orange juice or apple juice? It can only be one. And why?
Oh, this is rude.
Right now, for those listening and watching, it's 1-0 to orange juice.
This is
my last
hard.
guess.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go orange juice.
Ooh, and why?
I am gonna go with orange juice.
Why orange juice?
You know what? Because it tastes so damn good with alcohol. It does. I'm telling you, nothing sits down quite nice in a little vodka and orange juice.
Oh my god! I mean, I thought we'd go for a health reason, freshly squeezed. She said because at 5 o'clock it goes nice with a bit of alcohol.
It does, and you know what? I haven't had that in probably a good few years. I'm gonna try that out post lockdown.
Well, so we'll see what it looks like at the end of the series. It's currently 2-0 to orange juice. But Jatila, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Those listening, I hope you've enjoyed and been able to digest some nuggets from this lovely lady here. Those watching on YouTube, please make sure you do the 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Ace. This is Jatila. This is Behind the Net, and we're over and out.
Ow!